As dads, some days we feel like we have all the answers, and some days we feel like we don't have a clue. If that describes you, you're at the right place. This is the All Pro Dad Podcast. Hey, welcome to the All Pro Dad Podcast. I'm your host, Ted Lowe, and each week we take a look at just one question that dads are thinking through. We talk about what the experts say, what we've gotten wrong mostly, hopefully sometimes what we've gotten right, and we leave you with just one powerful but simple pro move of the week. And this week, I am joined by my co-hosts, Mr. Bobby Lewis.
Hey, what's going on, Ted?
And Mr. BJ Foster.
Hey there, Ted.
Hey, glad you guys are here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a fun topic.
This is a very fun topic today, but first I need to tell them how extraordinary you guys are.
Can't wait.
BJ Foster is the director, king of content here at Family First. He utilizes his experiences in corporate world, politics, nonprofits, and over 15 years of working with adolescents. He has a couple of adolescents himself, and he lives in Oklahoma City with his wife, Elizabeth. BJ, welcome.
Thanks, Ted.
And Mr. Bobby Lewis. Bobby, you've got the cool resume being the marketing media specialist and copywriter here at Family First.
Which just means that BJ critiques everything I write. That's basically what the job is.
Me too. That's how it rolls around
My
here.
favorite part of my job.
Yeah, I bet.
And it's a good thing he does,
Keeps you
right?
busy. Yeah.
But Bobby is a public speaker, a multimedia storyteller, and author. Bobby is married to his wife, Jocelyn, and they have 3 kids, and they live here in Seminole, Florida.
Yeah, married 15 years. Love it.
Love it. Awesome. And your wife, we just saw her in here. She had a skateboarding accident. She's on crutches.
Yeah, she's not 20, but she thinks she's 20. And so she's like, I'll just go skateboarding. And her knee disagrees. Her knee was like, this was a dumb decision. And so the crutches are the proof. Yeah.
Yeah, but how cool. What a way to be on crutches.
she's way cooler than me. I've been told that today.
I'm going to agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it works.
That's a no-brainer.
That is a no-brainer. So thanks for joining me, guys.
Yeah, man.
This is good stuff. Hey, we've got some interesting facts
I love those.
that I want us to talk about. It's relevant to our question for the day. There's a thing called TikTok brain. Are you guys familiar with this?
Dad, I don't use TikTok. No.
You don't. It's
No.
really fun. Anyway.
Make some assumptions
Yeah, there we go.
of what it is.
50% of TikTok users find videos longer than 1 minute stressful. Showing the effect.
Oh, that fact stresses me out.
It's
Gosh.
stressful.
It depresses me.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, man. All right. Give me another fact. Give me another one. That one depressed me.
All right. A reaction time. A study noted that the average person's reaction time to visual stimuli has increased by 30% over the past few decades, possibly due to the constant distractions to technology. You know, it's increased by 30%, like the reaction time. I'm like, my reaction time is lightning speed to any stimuli. Boom, I'm ready to go.
Interesting. Yeah.
There's also a thing called the dopamine effect. Research indicates that each time a person scrolls through social media, they receive a dopamine hit, reinforcing the behavior. This one was but does anybody get done with scrolling and go, whew, I feel good. I just feel good from that.
Nobody I know.
So if you're getting all this dopamine, like is it dopamine crash?
It turns you into dope.
It turns you into a dope?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
Scrolling all day long.
It's probably like eating like a whole ton of sugar.
Yeah.
And at the time, you're like, boy, this tastes good. Boy, this tastes good. Boy, this tastes good. And then you get done, you're like, oh, I'm sick.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, an hour of comparing myself with others. Okay, that's just great. Okay, now this is my favorite fact of all of them.
Okay.
We do it so much, we officially have a shorter attention span than a goldfish.
You mean the cracker or the animal?
Both.
Oh, gosh. Man,
We have an 8-second attention span, and goldfish, it's 9 seconds.
8 seconds? Oh, my gosh.
It feels like the world's catching up with me. I'm just so excited with this. I'm going, I would love to have an 8-second attention span. Social media engagement. The average user scrolls through 300 feet of content daily on platforms like
football
Facebook.
field. That's a whole football field.
That is craziness on Facebook
I had
and
to
Instagram.
do the math on that. I was like,
100 yards, 3 feet.
yeah.
Dang.
Which is
Can you imagine that like a football field going through your cell phone every single day? That's incredible. Man.
Did you know this is equivalent to the height of the Statue of Liberty?
And that's the average.
The
that means
average.
that there's plenty of people
They're going.
that are going well past the Statue of Liberty.
I didn't go to the torch.
Yeah, we're gonna go to the Liberty
Stopped about
Tower.
her nose. Yeah.
All right, so those are good facts. How about this? Here's some poll questions. We'll see if you guys get these. Do you guys ever look at your phone when you're driving?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, then you fall within the 75% of smartphone users who say, yeah, of course I do that. I do it at the red light. I don't do it when I'm driving. But yeah, 75%.
Would that be included as in that you're driving?
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, the car's on. So I guess we're the three out of four. There's some guy walking around who doesn't do it, but the three of us do. Yeah. All right. How about this one? Do you ever look at your phone in the bathroom?
Who doesn't look at the phone in their bathroom?
That's what it's designed for.
Well, apparently 60% of people don't.
Those 60% are lying.
Yeah, well, they probably are. Yeah, 40%.
Why would they?
It's 40%.
What did they take in a magazine? Is this
I don't know.
1985?
Right here. It says 40% of adults check their phones while using the bathroom.
Liars.
I don't know. You know, it's funny. Years ago, I remember seeing this really funny post on social media from the Olympics. It was a Olympic athlete. I forget the guy's name. He got stuck in the bathroom at the Olympic Village and he couldn't get out. The bathroom door locked and he just got stuck in there. And the first comment was, idiot, use your phone, call somebody from the bathroom. And he didn't have his phone with him. And so he just got locked in the bathroom
It's
at the
a good
Olympics.
thing.
Yeah, well, I guess he couldn't, except for that guy.
Yeah,
you know?
well, there are 60% dumb people out there that don't take their phone in and get locked in.
Well, the people that do, how about this one? Have you ever dropped your phone in the toilet?
I have not, but my son has. When we went to keep him on the toilet as when we were potty training him, I gave him my phone.
I had a glass of water beside my chair and I knocked it over and it went into the water like a carnival game. Like I couldn't have made that happen again if my life depended on it. I keep extra bags of rice for my phone.
Just in case?
Yeah.
How about this one? 1 in 5 women, 1 in 8 men reported dropping their phone in the toilet.
Okay.
That's nearly 16% of the American population has dropped their phone in the toilet, which is incredible. Oh, man. All right, last one from me. Has your kid ever had to work to get your attention because you were distracted using a device?
Oh, gosh. I hate this game.
Yeah. This is
accusatory.
Like, here's the thing. Like, I think the question should probably be more. I would feel better.
Yeah.
If the question was more, how often has this happened? Well, it hasn't happened much, but of course it happened.
Well, how about this?
At all?
Listen to this stat. This blew my mind. Nearly 70% of dads admit that they were more likely to check their phones than attend to a crying baby.
Oh, no. I have to. I hate crying babies.
So you're like, give me the phone.
I used to call that era of parenthood the dark ages because I'm like, stop crying.
Yeah. This is a problem for dads.
It.
But think like your kids are 15 years old. Like rewind the clock 15 years. Your cell phone wasn't as powerful or capable as it is now. Like this is
That's
a problem. You know, maybe that's more for a dad with young kids right this minute.
the payphone. There was never an issue, right?
You didn't scroll on that payphone very long. You couldn't even get it in the bathroom.
No, exactly. You had to crank that out. Hey, I've got a little guessing game on this.
All right.
You guys ready?
Yeah.
Okay. At the current rate, on average, how long will people spend of their lives on social media? At the current rate, how long will people spend?
So it's probably what?
Out of like an 80-year life, like how
let's
had
shoot-
the total.
So is it people spend what 5 hours a day on average? A lot of people 3, 4, 5
you're
hours a
doing
day.
math.
I'm trying to do math because I'm gonna just guess out of left field.
Okay.
I don't know, like 10 years.
What do you guess?
Oh, I was thinking it might be something like that.
Yeah,
Well, you guys are.
Is it we overestimated?
I hope so.
So good.
We did. Oh, good.
Here's the great news. It's only 5 years of your life.
That's depressing.
that's awesome.
And thank goodness. Well, because there's a couple of years where you can't even. It's like a good.
Yeah, but you spend 25 years of your life sleeping.
Right.
Yeah, a third of your life. You know, you sleep 8 hours a day, give or take. So that's a third of your life.
What's 5 years?
What's 5 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is great.
How many times a day does the average smartphone owner click, tap, or swipe?
Oh, this one I know. It's like 2,500 times a day.
I was going to say 1,000.
Bobby.
2,600, 2,500?
2,600.
Yeah, 2,600. Yeah, I knew. It's because I read a book called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. He's a pastor.
Let's put that in show notes.
Dude, it's a
book.
great book.
Yeah.
Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And he used that statistic in his book. 2,600 times a day you touch it. Whether it's just to like tap a cell phone notification or if it's to swipe something, 2,600 times a day. And if you're awake for, let's call it 16, 18 hours, whatever, that's a lot per hour. You are touching that thing all the time.
How many times a hour does the average worker check their email?
Email?
Mm-hmm.
0.
Yeah, I don't check my email.
No. Now Slack, that would be a different. Let's just say other coworkers.
Oh man.
But this says email, so I can't change.
I bet it's pretty high. I don't check email that often, but I bet it's pretty common.
It's 30 times an hour.
An hour?
An hour.
30
Every other
times an
minute?
hour?
30 times an hour. How does that?
I'm not that
Well, I
important.
hope you're clicking into the All Pro Dad email.
Yeah, you should be getting play of the day.
Yeah.
Play of the day email.
Just spend 1 minute. Okay. 25% of teens forget major details of close friends and relatives because they're so distracted. They're not paying attention.
Yeah, I believe it.
While podcasts are popular, the average listener drops off after an average of 7 minutes of the podcast.
Well, that's right about now. See you, people.
And once again, we want to thank you for joining the All Pro Dad podcast.
I think that just speaks to like the pace of life that we live in. Everybody's living so fast, and we have sped up because of these devices and because of the social media tools, and we're just living fast lives. That nothing holds our attention the way it used to.
That's true.
Years and years ago, you mentioned our attention span's 8 seconds. I guarantee 2 generations ago it was 5, 6, 8 times that, whatever it is. Our attention spans have been truncated, and that's not good for us, I don't think.
Which leads us to our question of the week, which is, how do we combat our kids shortening attention spans? How do we combat our kids shortening attention spans? Like, how do we do this? Because it's so advantageous. It improves focus and learning, enhance creativity, better social skills, increase physical activity, better sleep quality, stronger family bonds to the family.
Yeah.
For adults, I mean, we've got to talk about that. It reduces stress and anxiety, which we can all need, increases productivity, enhance emotional well-being, better relationships, improve physical health. This is true for all of us. I mean, I think we just got to wrap our arms around the fact, and every dad knows this right now. I don't need to state the obvious. I mean, our kids need to learn this. We need to learn this. If modeling's ever been important, it's this.
It's almost as if in 2025, like if you have an attention span more than 10 seconds, you got a superpower.
Right.
Like you're well above the average.
Right.
I mean, if you're able to sit and focus on something for a couple of minutes, you've really trained your mind to be calm and to be still. And I think it's easier for adults to do that. I hope it's easier for adults to do that. It's not so easy, I think, for kids to do that. And so we got to model it. Like you said, we got to teach kids how to sit and be present, not be so distracted.
Yeah, I feel like as a society, we just keep getting, it's like, let's go faster, more convenient, more information. And we just keep loading ourselves up. For
sure.
And ultimately, it's just making us more frazzled, more exhausted, and more anxious than we've ever been before.
BJ, you wrote a popular article on All Pro Dad entitled 5 Ways to Combat Our Kids Shortening the Attention Span. Walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, I kind of came across this idea. I started to research this because more people, you get more and more engagement on just reels. And I find myself, it's like, shorter and shorter. And so I started to do some research, and it conflicts a little bit. I mean, you were talking about 8 seconds. I saw a figure that said 20 years ago that the attention span was about 2.5 minutes, and which is small anyway.
Yeah.
That's short. And now it's about 45 seconds. And it was interesting because some of the research I was doing on this, they had in the article that I was researching, they had an Instagram post about it embedded in the middle of the article. And I found myself going to that, and just looking at that and not reading the rest of and so the rest of the article would have taken me 3 minutes.
Right.
The video was about 30 seconds. And I was like, even while I'm researching this, I can't, I have to go to the quick video. Yeah. And so it just started to make me think gosh, as someone who kind of grew up in the 80s and, 70s, 80s, and, teen in the 90s, like my attention span is short. Like what are our kids dealing with? And are our attention spans, if they're 45 seconds now, are they going to be 3 seconds in, and what are we losing in the midst of all this? And so like Bobby, like what you were saying, like having an attention span, if you're able to focus on something for a while, you tend to be able to go deeper on the subject. You learn more. You're able to wrestle through it.
Have you ever been to like a fine art museum and just you walk through the rooms and you're looking at this piece of art that someone spent hours and maybe weeks of their life painting or sculpting or crafting, and you just see people walk by and they walk away? It's sad, and I'm not beating anybody up because I've probably done the same thing. I've gone to museums and I've looked at stuff on the wall. I'm like, it's kind of cool, and just walk off. But someone's poured time and attention into making these things. I think that all this content that we consume and all the videos that we have and all the social media stuff that we do, it's kind of made us appreciate things less, if that's the way to put it. I think that from an adult's perspective, like you were talking about growing up in the 80s, like we grew up where we had less stimuli or not as rapid as stimuli. Our kids don't have that option. Our kids are growing up where everything is tailor-made for them, right? These social media feeds are specifically curated so that they're getting all the information, all the topics, all the subjects that they want. And in doing so, they're getting stuff they want, but if even within that, they can filter out the stuff that they don't find interesting. And so it's so specified now. It's so like targeted into exactly what they want that they're training themselves to think, if it's not exactly what I want, if it's not done exactly how I want, I can just dispose of it. I can move on. And that's not a good thing for kids. I think that when you expose them to all sorts of things and all sorts of paces and all sorts of topics, that's better for a more well-rounded child. I just see it all the time, even my own kids, and we don't use social media at my house, partly because they're too young, but also because I don't see a ton of value in it for kids. I want to steer them away from that as long as possible. Get them in love with nature, get them in love with books, get them in love with the slow stuff, so that eventually, inevitably, when they get around to the fast stuff, they appreciate everything around them, not just the stuff that's spoon-fed to them in exactly the way they want it.
Yeah. Which I think was your first point, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean to postpone smartphones as much for, and Jonathan Haidt, who wrote the Anxious Generation.
And this is how to combat that, right? That we're talking about now.
This is how to kind of turn the tide. I mean, because everything Bobby said is absolutely right. And because we've lost the ability to, for the slow payoff, to let something build. And you think about how that can affect your relationships. You take that mentality into relationships.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't get what I wanted out of this right away. I'm out.
Yeah. One date and it's over.
Yeah. And that's, a lot of kids have online relationships with very little, there's no risk to discarding them. And so, there's just kind of no. So it's, I started to think like, okay, how can we as parents fight against this? And so, the number one is to postpone smartphones. It's the quickest thing. It gives the quickest dopamine hit. Again, Jonathan Haidt recommends that you don't give one until 14, until high school.
I think that's even a little young, but
right. And so, but you see them all over the place.
Well, the difficulty in Jonathan Haidt, if you haven't read The Anxious Generation, it's a phenomenal book. I was thinking about it the other day, actually. I think this is a generational book. And we're not advertising it or anything. I just read it and you read it. I think it's great. And he talks about how this phone-based childhood has stripped away a lot of the natural discovery that kids have that they gain through play as they get older. And they just discover things by doing instead of just observing. But one of the things that he's written about there is how these phones are just robbing the kids of joy. They're robbing the kids of actual interactions. They think they're getting true companionship. They think they're getting true friendships. But what they're getting is this like surface level, I see people through a screen, but I never actually reach out and touch them. And like reaching out and touching and playing and talking and being in the same physical proximity with someone is so valuable for kids. And a lot of kids have replaced that with a counterfeit friendship, which is just through the screen. It's bad for them.
Yeah. And I think a lot of parents are like, well, I need to be able to get a hold of my kid.
Sure.
Like, look, there's a lot of different things. You can get them a watch. You can get them a flip phone. There are a lot of things that you can do.
We
to
use
get in
smoke
touch
signals
with
at our
your
house.
kids.
We just send up smoke signals.
Pigeons,
Come on home. Yeah.
Bad signal.
So I like your point here, but I want to ask you guys both this question because I know that this is probably something that dads are thinking about. If they've already given them a smartphone and they see that, oh man, maybe it was too soon. My kid's 12 and I gave him a smartphone because all their friends had smartphones, right? And they want to be able to text their friends or whatever. It's really hard to dial it back. Is there a way, if this is great, like postpone smartphones, great point. But if you've already given it to them, is there a way to rein it back in a little bit?
Yeah, take it away. Yeah, I have no problem with taking it away. If it's not good for them, take it away. And it's bad for them. It is. It's bad for them. It's bad for them. And we've shown why it's bad for them. Like like all the anxiety, everything that it's causing in kids, the distractions, it's not good for them. I mean, it'd be like, you already gave your kid cocaine. I mean, bit. It's like, well, take it away. Like you take it away from him. Like, like we gave my kid alcohol. And, we already introduced him to it. So I guess we just have to keep giving it to him.
It's funny. Just own it as a dad, too. Just to say, mom and dad go, hey, this is on us. We shouldn't have done this. And now we're correcting it. I know that's not fair for you. It feels like not fair, but it's not good for you.
It's wild that you said cocaine because Stanford University did a study that said a smartphone is as addictive, if not more addictive to children than cocaine.
Yeah.
So that's wild to me. It's just, you happen to say that. I know there'll probably be pushback. So you've got a 13-year-old and you've given them a smartphone. They've had it for 2 years. They're used to it being their sole communication device with friends. And you walk in and say, hey, sweetie, I know that you love this, but I'm taking it away. It's gone. Mm-hmm. There's going to be major pushback in your house.
We've taken away their cocaine.
You have. Yeah. And so they're going to go through those same sort of withdrawals that someone who's addicted to a drug would have. You're going to have to weather that storm if you're a dad, I'm sure.
I gave my son an Xbox. He used it in a way that was not good. Mm-hmm. And he would see, if he was sitting here, he would tell you that. Yeah. And I said, your Xbox is going into prison until next year. And that's the first time we're even going to talk about parole. Now, like, this is a little bit different. Maybe they're not doing the things that, like, maybe they haven't done anything with it.
Bad things.
But it's, hey, listen, everything that I'm seeing, and even the things that I'm seeing in you, like, like you give a kid a smartphone, their behavior is going to change. And you can say, like, look, I don't like what I'm seeing, so we're going to take this back and we're going to give you a flip phone or whatever. And you can text your friends with that. That's fine. But it's okay to take it away.
So we're navigating that now with my 13-year-old. She has a couple of little friends. They want to communicate. Totally cool. I did not get her a traditional smartphone. There's no iPhone in our house for her. We got her like a dumb phone, if you want to call it that. Simply phone calls, text messages. She can take photos. She can't send or receive photos. So we feel like this is a good training wheels option, right? Mm-hmm. But I even noticed, my wife and I have talked about this recently, that even with the training wheels option, it's just in her hand all the time because it is a gateway to my buddy. And it's no social media. Like, I do not want her using social media at all. In fact, I'm very much in favor of no social media till you're like 17, 18 years old. I think that's better for you, even if you want to introduce it that young. That's just me. But I think even having the ability to text a friend at whatever time, she's expecting there to be open lines of communication all the time. She's like, I have the ability. Why shouldn't I have the access to do it? And I'm noticing that, and I don't love it. It is the training wheels version, but I mean, I gave her the training wheels.
Well, that's a great intro into the next, and that's delay social media. So again, Jonathan, I recommends that it's not until 16. Yeah. That's at least not until 16. So if you wait till 16, now there is a part of this where my wife kind of said, like, I think we should give our son a smartphone, and I'm like, I didn't want to do it. Yeah. And she said, look, I want him to have it in our house.
In your house, yeah.
So that we can walk him through this. So, starting social media later on, because I'll tell you what, man, and I told my son when we gave him a phone, I said, you are not permitted, if you are with your friends, you are not permitted to have your phone out scrolling.
Yeah.
And he said to me, he goes, Dad, it's so boring. Like they all are scrolling and I'm just sitting there. I said, then just sit there and try to start a conversation with all of them that'll you know, rein them all in and get them all out of their phones.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the reflex. And Ted, you've got older kids than I do. So maybe you've seen this up close and I'm just assuming. But when you've got a group of kids that are hanging out and one phone comes out, I assume that it's just chain reactions. Like, well, I guess monkey see, monkey do. I'll do this too because something must be more interesting than me. I'm sitting at this table and they've chosen not to engage with me anymore. Well, let me find something else that's more engaging. And when we do that over and over and over again, when we see our kids doing that, no wonder their attention spans get shorter because they can't carry on a conversation. They're moving on to the next thing as fast as possible. Yep. And it programs them to think, oh, if I'm not being stimulated with verbal communication with my buddies, I'll just find something else to keep my attention. And then it's just cycle over and over and over again.
How boring is a person compared to your phone? I mean, sitting across, I remember when our kids were really young and they were into video games and different things. And I remember taking them out to canoe and my son looks at me, he's probably 8. You know, they just played little video games. He looks at me, he goes, so we're just going to be in the water and paddle? Yeah. And I thought, well, you were just jumping up on mushrooms and it was making you a giant. And then you would go in, you know, and so you look at that and you're going, whoa, like from a stimulus perspective, what's trees and water? And so it is those pieces of that. So how do we, I know if we're not going to take it away.
It's funny because I thought you were going to say something else. It's like, how boring is a person who just sits there and scrolls?
And it's
what a boring person who can't engage a conversation.
Well, that's the thing is, I was so disheartened recently because I was looking over college class options, not for me to go back to school. I was just curious. I was looking at what's offered, and there are classes being offered at my alma mater for interpersonal communication, which is basically how to talk to people.
Right.
And I was like, you have to have a college class, 20-year-old, 18-year-old, whatever, on just how to carry on a conversation. Now, this is the get off my lawn old man part of the podcast, because in my mind, I'm like, why do I need to teach you how to have a conversation? But I can't necessarily blame kids because if they're 18, 19 years old, they've never lived in a world without a smartphone. They don't know what it is. They've always had access to Siri. Siri, how tall is Mount Everest? Got it. I don't need to go research anything. I don't need to go to the library. I don't need to look it up. It's all here in the palm of my hands. And when you've got access to all that information, I don't want to wait around for anything, including you. Like if you're not interesting, I'm moving on.
Well, if you think about if we went to a party or something when we were younger, and there was a lull in the conversation, we dealt with the awkwardness and we tried to figure out how to unawkward the situation. Yeah. Now it's like, I find myself, even when I'm at a party and I'm like, there's no one to talk to, I whip my phone out because it's such a comfort kind of a thing. And so immediately they don't know how to deal with awkwardness. Pull the phone out, find a video, and then maybe show the video to your friends and let's talk about that. That's what they're dealing with. They're relying on it so much. So, the others would be limit their screen time, cut that down, make them live in the real world, get them out there, schedule physical play and exercise, like getting them out into a river, paddling around, like all of those things. If you can put them in situations where there's a slow burn toward a slow payoff, the more time that they can spend there, the increased attention span they'll have. And finally, this is very important. It's not just important for our kids, but it's important to us and our well-being. Make quiet and focused time a habit in your house. Shut things down. Model it. Model just kind of quiet. Don't pull your phone out every 2 seconds.
We do that at our house. In fact, one of my favorite words is bored. I love it. I love when my kids say they're bored because I'll say, good. Find something to do. I love it.
We have a whole episode. We did an interview that talks about this, about having that time and how to do that. Well, let's jump into our pro move of this episode. This is very enlightening. I think we all get it that attention spans, including our own, are definitely.
Sorry, what were you saying? I wasn't listening. What were you saying?
I'm sorry. What was that? Where's the camera?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
There's so many things. There's so many things. So we want to give you BJ's 5 suggestions to choose from this week. So your pro move of the week is picked from one of these 5. Postpone smartphones, delay social media, limit screen time, schedule physical play and exercise, or make quiet and focused time a habit. at your house. And here's the payoff, because everything we want to give you the payoff. A study by the American Academy of Pediatrics found that parents who limit screen time create stronger connections with their kids. So this is worth the effort to do something that's not easy. If it's going to connect me more with my kid, and it does, our rule has always been in the car, we're not on our phones, and it has been golden time. So thank you guys so much for being with us today. If you've enjoyed this podcast, will you go and rate and review podcasts on whatever platform that you're listening on? If you want to know more tips and tricks, you can check out our LinkedIn pages in the show notes. And speaking of show notes, you can find a lot of great resources, a lot of great articles to All Pro Dad, but also some of the resources and books we're talking about. But most of all, we want to say thank you for joining us. We know that you and your kids will be glad you did. Thanks for listening to the All Pro Dad podcast. All Pro Dad is the fatherhood program of the nonprofit Family First. Along with our motherhood program, iMom, we exist to help you love your family well. Subscribe to our daily email, the All Pro Dad Play of the Day, by going to allprodad.com/subscribe and get daily powerful and practical fatherhood tips in your inbox. The All Pro Dad podcast is hosted by me, Ted Lowe, produced by Bobby Lewis.